London. I will start off with my example. It actually comes from the roundtable from last night, and I was just thinking about Anne Witcher's comments about Limehouse Nights, which is a book I really wanted to read now. And she talked about the monkey walk, which is this parade that young girls do in order to meet their boyfriends. And it reminded me that I have no sort of conception of urban youth culture before 1950, beyond concerns about delinquency, and that's certainly something I'd like to explore further. Andrew?
I was just sort of joking there that I'd like to have 6 examples, and I think I might sort of try your patience, but very quickly run through them, because I think it shows something really fantastic about the range of work that we've heard, and also the kind of organising principle that I think has been in the background here, which is about history and about how knowledge of history and historical context can provide essential interpretative value. So I'm going to be very quick on my 6 points. The first one is that I discovered that 16th century Londoners saw Kent as a place of orchards, therefore making it a prime location to retell the story of the Garden of Eden in Arden, Faversham. We all discovered yesterday that virtually all known artists and engravers in 18th century London lived and worked in a square quarter mile in Covent Garden. Phenomenal fact. Yesterday I also discovered that Pygmalion, George Bernard Shaw, was partly inspired by the criminal trial of W.T. Stead for procuring Eliza Armstrong. Staying with trials, Oscar Wilde and D.H. Lawrence's trials were contests over what should be English literature, not just what should be in the canon and questions of taste, but also English literature as a national myth. And a very interesting fact there that F.R. Leavis refused to give evidence in the Lawrence obscenity trial. We learned yesterday that constant electric illumination of the proletarian workplace is a feature of H.G. Wells's dystopia When the Sleeper Wakes, which gives a whole new meaning, I think, to power in a political as well as a technological sense. And finally, earlier today, I learned that Harold Pinter wrote his affair with Joan Bakewell into the text of his play Betrayal. But this wasn't just a kind of incidental detail, it was actually the very kind of primal memory that drives the psychology of some of the main characters.
I think one of the greatest pleasures for me from this conference has been to be exposed to so many different time periods, which I usually ignore. It's been really amazing to make links between 16th century and 19th century, which I'm interested in, between realism and fantasy literature. And one of the things that I think has been important to me, especially today, is how much we like the disorder and the chaos of London. I don't think really we would have it any other way, and actually Haddis's paper pointed to the fact that the over-sanitisation of London would be something we would all hate. So filth and disorder, things I always come across as a Victorianist in studies of London, but things that we continue to see throughout 20th and 21st century literature as well, has been very interesting to me. Also specificity of locality as an organising feature of so many different genres of London literature has been really interesting to me. In my studies of realism, obviously I've come across this, but to think of knowledge of London as a basis for fantasy which writes against what can be known, and realism which interrogates the very idea of truth. So those things for me have been really interesting these past 2 days.
Equally, I have been so impressed by, I guess, what I would like to call the many literary modes of literary London. Genres doesn't really suffice to sort of encapsulate the sort of intersections between the Gothic, the apocalyptic, Blitz literature, the poetic, detective fiction, the journalistic, and I could go on. I could just keep using adjectives, but I won't. Equally, I was really struck by the international sort of congregation that we are. We're not all from London. We're not all of London. We're not even all national English or British or from the UK. So this conference really draws together a group of people who are interested in London, which sort of casts London as a hubristic city, because it's a city that interests the entire world. So that's something maybe we need to think about and be careful about, but it's also fascinating. Sort of running through many of the papers and panels are sort of the literary implications of what it means for there to be a literary London. Is it simply a text that's set in London, or is it about London? What does it mean for a writer to be London-born? Do they have to self-identify as such? How important is being from London to discussions of London, representations of it? And can you write about London accurately, with any accuracy, with any realism, if you're not from there? And I think the answer is yes, because you can move here. I think one of the things maybe we all enjoyed in various panels is how well humor and chaos go together, and equally how fine the line is between order and disorder. A well-organized conference about disorder, say for instance, could be such. And I suppose finally, and maybe this is a question we've all been asking ourselves, is what is the canon of literary London? And I would put forward the idea that literary London resists canonization, and I think there are some people here who have sort of been deliberate provocateurs, pushing us outside our comfort zones, introducing us to new authors that deserve our reflection, our attention, and our analysis. So that's been very positively rewarding.
Thanks so much. That's an amazing set of responses, not least because you engaged so closely with the themes of this conference, but also went well beyond them to think about what literary London means. Thanks very much. I'd only like to add that one thing that I saw coming up again and again is is a concern with perspective and the motivation for writing about disorder and crisis. When writing about disorder, who's writing and for whom is an issue that is continually addressed, and certainly something that you were concerned with, many other papers were too. We've seen that there's a long tradition, critical awareness about writing about disorderly people and places. One that's often full of contestation. We saw that from Matthew Rupert's paper this morning. And in fact, there's a continual awareness when we, as literary London scholars, there's an awareness of our own motivation for writing, thinking about crisis and disorder. What are we doing here? So I was particularly interested in those papers, such as Lisa's, which seek to try and extrapolate something from a previous crisis in order to say something about crisis today.